Don't you move.
Blue and red
Keep your
lights
hands on the
pulsed
wheel
against
where
the
I can
wet
see them.
asphalt,
I am
strobing
not going
across the
to ask
quiet
you
stretch
again.
of highway. The black sedan idled by the shoulder,
Don't play
rain
games with me.
whispering against its
The
roof.
reflection on that
Inside,
window isn't
Michael
the only
Grant
thing
sat
looking back at
motionless,
you.
hands on the steering wheel,
We have
jaw
evidence.
locked. His tailored suit glistened faintly under the flashes, the badge in his breast pocket catching no light, hidden. The patrol car door slammed, boots splashed, a flashlight beam cut through the rain, searing into Michael's face. License and registration. The officer barked. Michael's pulse hammered. Of course, officer, may I? Did I say you could talk? The voice carried that sharp, familiar edge, authority turned contempt. Michael moved slowly, narrating each gesture the way every black man learns to survive. My wallet is in my jacket pocket. I'm reaching now. The officer's smirk widened. You people always got an excuse ready. A click, the safety of the officer's gun releasing cracked through the rain. Michael froze, his reflection warped in the officer's mirrored glasses. A black man, framed by red light, one twitch from dying. Then radio chatter interrupted the moment. Unit 14, stand by. FBI Director Michael Grant's vehicle pinged near your location. Protective detail en route. The officer's hand hesitated. His eyes flicked toward Michael's license, where the name gleamed. Silence, only the rain. The flashlight trembled. You're Director Grant. Michael met his stare, calm, precise, lethal in restraint. You just made the worst mistake of your career. The sirens grew louder behind them, washing the night in blue light. The officer took a step back, then another, until the sound of approaching engines swallowed his trembling breath. The rain didn't stop. Rain streaked the windshield like nervous handwriting. The highway was empty, stretching into darkness. When the flash of red and blue tore through Michael Grant's solitude, he eased his sedan to the shoulder, exhaled slowly, and placed both hands on the steering wheel. He'd been here before, not on this road but in this posture. Stillness, compliance, restraint. The patrol car halted behind him. A door slammed. The officer approached with that swagger of authority that came from never being questioned. Michael lowered his window. The cold air smelled of asphalt and wet pine. Evening, officer, he said evenly. The flashlight hit his eyes. License and registration. They're in my jacket pocket. Keep your hands where I can see 'em. Michael froze, then nodded. Yes, sir. The beam drifted across his face, lingered too long. What's a man like you doing out here this late? Driving home from work. The officer's tone sharpened. You some kind of businessman? Michael didn't answer. The word kind wasn't innocent. It was the line. The officer leaned closer. His Namatag read Henson. You from around here? DC, long way from home? DC, you carrying? No. Pop the trunk. Michael blinked. Excuse me. You heard me. Rain gathered on his eyelashes. He didn't move. Am I being detained? Henson's lips twitched. You people always start with that lawyer talk. Michael's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. Officer, out of the car. The order cracked through the night. Michael stepped out slowly, rain soaking his suit. The mud sucked at his shoes, hands on the hood. He complied, metal cold under his palms. Henson circled him like prey. Fancy car, expensive suit. You sure this isn't stolen? Michael swallowed. I can assure you. A shove cut him off. His chest hit the hood. The impact echoed. Don't move. Behind them, a car slowed, then sped up. Bystanders always did. Michael's heart pounded, but his voice stayed calm. Officer, if you check the registration, you'll see my name. Your name don't mean nothing out here. Then the radio crackled. Unit 14, possible high-profile ID match. Subject's credentials flagged. FBI Director Michael Grant. Confirm immediately. The silence was suffocating. Henson's grip faltered. His face drained color. You're, what? Michael turned, meeting his eyes. I said, check the registration. The realization hit like a bullet. Henson stumbled back, the arrogance collapsing into panic. I didn't. Michael straightened, rain dripping off his sleeve. You did. The highway filled with distant sirens, closer, louder, unstoppable. Henson's voice cracked. This is all a misunderstanding. No, Michael said, tone flat, final. It's a mirror. The sirens arrived. Floodlights washed the night in truth. Henson stepped away as unmarked SUVs surrounded them. Agents poured out, their weapons lowered, eyes scanning the scene. Director Grant, are you hurt? Michael didn't answer. He just stared at Henson. One man in uniform, another bound by it, both prisoners of what the badge had become. The rain fell harder, drowning out everything but the sound of exposure. Morning light leaked through half-closed blinds. washing the living room in a dull gray. The television filled the silence-breaking news footage looping over and over, a shaky body cam clip. The words "you people always got an excuse." Then, the still image, Michael Grant, soaked in rain, face illuminated by police strobes. Dana muted the volume, her hands trembling around a coffee mug. "They leaked it," she said quietly. Michael stood by the window, unmoving, his suit jacket hung over a chair, still damp from last night. It was only a matter of time. On screen the headline scrolled, "Routine stop sparks controversy, officer claims misunderstanding." "Optics," Michael repeated, voice low. "That's all this institution ever sees." Cole's tone hardened. "The Department of Justice will issue a statement. It'll say, the incident is under review. Both parties acted professionally under stress. That's as far as we go." Michael's silence was heavy. "And the truth?" Cole hesitated. "Sometimes truth costs more than it buys." Michael stood. "Then maybe it's time to raise the price." He left before Cole could answer. Back home, Dana was on the phone with their son's school principal. "Yes, I saw the video," she said, voice steady but brittle. "No, he will not stay home until things calm down. My son did nothing wrong." Michael placed a hand on her shoulder. She hung up, eyes wet but fierce. "They want us invisible." Michael, always polite, always small. "I'm done being small," he said. That night, he was summoned to a private meeting at City Hall. The mayor, the police chief, and the press director were waiting. Every handshake was cold. Chief Reynolds spoke first. "Director Grant, I want to personally apologize for what happened. Officer Henson's actions don't represent the department." Michael sat across from them, expression unreadable. "You've already issued that line to the press." The mayor interjected smoothly. "We just want to de-escalate tensions. The footage is being weaponized. People are calling for protests." "People are calling for accountability," Michael corrected. The press director shifted. "If you'd consider releasing a joint statement, something that emphasizes unity and mutual respect, it would go a long way." Michael leaned back. "You mean you want me to absolve him?" "No one's asking you to lie," Reynolds said too quickly. "Yes, you are," Michael said quietly. "You want me to help you bury what happened because it's inconvenient. You want a clean story, not a true one." The mayor's smile faded. "Director, be reasonable. You're a public servant. The system only works when we protect it." Michael met his gaze. "The system's been protecting itself for too long." Silence. The tension was almost physical. Reynolds tried again. Softer. "You have influence. If you stand with us now, you could help bridge divides." Michael's tone turned to iron. "I won't bridge over a body." He stood. The mayor's voice followed him to the door. "Careful, Director. Righteousness doesn't guarantee survival." Outside, the city lights flickered in the drizzle. Michael exhaled slow, deliberate. His reflection stared back at him in the dark glass of the government building, composed, but cracking beneath the weight of restraint. He walked to his car and dialed Dana. "It's worse than I thought," he said. Her voice was quiet. "What are you going to do?" Michael looked at the Capitol's silhouette in the distance. "What I swore to do. Uphold justice. Even if it costs you everything." He hesitated, especially then. When he hung up, his phone buzzed again, an email from an unknown sender. Subject line, "You're not the first, he's done this too." Attached was a file, internal complaint records against Officer Clay Henson. 3 names, 3 ignored reports. Michael's eyes narrowed. The machine was bigger than one man, but cracks had already formed. He clicked open the first document and began to read. The glow of the laptop lit his face up. Man preparing not for vengeance, but for exposure. Outside, thunder rolled across the city like an omen. By sunrise, the story had mutated. On one channel, a clean-cut anchor with careful diction spoke over cropped footage. Officer Henson, a decorated 10-year veteran, claims the stop was by the book. Sources say the director's behavior may have escalated the tension. On another, a panel argued over tone and timing, not truth. Was it really racism, or just a misunderstanding? One commentator asked, smiling thinly. Michael watched from his office, jaw unmoving. The silence inside the bureau was louder than the noise outside. 2 days later, Clay Henson sat under studio lights, a crisp uniform, perfectly framed flag backdrop. A sympathetic host, leaning forward. "I've been getting death threats," Clay said solemnly. "My family's terrified. All because I tried to do my job." The host nodded gravely. "You've been called a racist by millions of strangers." Clay's practiced sigh filled the pause. "It's open season on cops. People forget, we're human too. In the control room, producers smiled. The segment hit every cue: redemption, humility, victimhood. Michael watched from home, silent. Dana muted the TV. He's good, she said bitterly. They're turning him into a martyr. Michael's laptop glowed beside him. Dozens of open tabs. Internal complaints, court transcripts, old arrest records, patterns forming: same officer, same tone of authority, same victims forgotten. He opened a folder, marked Henson_cases. The names stared back at him, all black, all dismissed. Dana's voice softened. You're not sleeping. You barely eat. Please, tell me what you're doing. I'm building something they can't spin, he said. Michael. He looked up. If the Bureau won't expose it, I will. That night, he met quietly with Maya Torres, an investigative journalist he'd trusted from a past corruption case. They sat in the back corner of a diner, rain thudding against the windows. Maya leaned forward. You're sure you want to cross this line? Michael slid a flash drive across the table. They already crossed it years ago. She plugged it into her laptop, brows tightening as she scrolled. These are internal records. Complaints buried under insufficient evidence. Body cam data overwritten, every one of them filed against Henson. She stopped at a name: Jerome Willis. He's the kid who was shot in a parking lot 2 years ago. Right. Unarmed, Michael said. Henson said he reached for something. No footage survived. Maya exhaled. You realize what happens when this comes out? Yes, he said. They'll come for me, but they'll never bury him again. She looked at him, measuring his resolve. You're the FBI director. You're betting your career. Michael's gaze didn't waver. I'm betting on truth. The following morning, Bureau security flagged suspicious login attempts on his account. IT sent alerts. Cole called Mike. What the hell are you doing? I'm working from home, Michael said. You've triggered half the internal monitoring system. They think your credentials are compromised. Michael smiled faintly. Maybe they are. Cole's tone dropped. Stop this before you can't. But Michael already knew. Silence was complicity. By nightfall, hashtags flooded the internet. Hashtag back the blue. Hashtag Grant exposed. Hashtag FBI overreach. Anonymous sources fed reporters claims that Michael had a personal vendetta against the police. The campaign was efficient, surgical, almost rehearsed. At dinner, his son pushed his food around the plate. Dad, kids at school said you hate cops. Michael froze. Dana's eyes met his, pleading, weary. He put down his fork. I don't hate anyone, son. I hate what happens when power forgets what it's for. The boy nodded slowly, not understanding, but feeling the weight anyway. Outside, a car idled too long at the curb. Michael's gaze flicked toward the window. Dana whispered, we can leave the city for a while. He shook his head. Running makes them right. The next day, Maya texted, draft done. Need confirmation before publishing. Michael stared at the screen. A lifetime of service, about to ignite a storm. He typed one line. Run it. The article dropped at midnight. Headline: the officer, the director, and the pattern the system ignored. It wasn't sensationally, it was precise. Documents, dates, quotes, redacted names. The story hit like a slow explosion. By dawn, networks were scrambling. Some questioned the source. Others replayed Henson's old footage with new disgust. Protesters gathered outside the precinct. Michael stood on his balcony, dawn light spilling over the city. Dana joined him. Quiet. They'll come after you, she said. He nodded. They already have. Below, reporters shouted his name. Cameras flashing. The air was heavy, not fearsome. In between. Dana took his hand. You've started something you can't control. Michael's reply was soft but firm. Good. The conference room smelled of burnt coffee and fear. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead as the city's power brokers gathered. Mayor Halbrook, Police Chief Reynolds, to aides, and Michael Grant. No press, no cameras, no pretense. The mayor's voice carried first. Director Grant, I appreciate you coming. We need to talk about the fallout from your leak. Michael didn't sit. It wasn't a leak. It was disclosure. And it was necessary. Reynolds adjusted his tie, eyes cold. Necessary? You blindsided an entire department. You turned one bad cop into a war zone. Michael folded his arms. If exposing truth causes a war, maybe peace was a lie. The aides exchanged nervous glances. Halbrook leaned forward. Listen, Michael, we're all trying to keep this city from burning. People are protesting outside the precincts. Businesses are closing early. We need to de-escalate. Michael's tone didn't shift. You mean suppress? Halbrook sighed. You're not naive. Optics matter. Public confidence matters. Michael stepped closer. Public confidence in what? The illusion of justice, the comfort of denial. Reynolds' fist hit the table. You think you're the only one who cares about justice. We're trying to keep officers alive out there. Michael's voice cut through the air. And who keeps us alive when your officers stop us in the dark? The silence afterward felt like static. Halbrook finally spoke, quieter. You're forcing this into a corner we can't defend. The Bureau, the city, the PD, they all rely on mutual trust. You're undermining that. Michael leaned on the table. Trust built on silence isn't trust. It's complicity. Halbrook's polite mask cracked. You're out of line. Michael smiled faintly. So is your city. After the meeting, Michael walked out alone. His reflection followed him across the marble hallway, stoic, but fraying at the edges. His phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. We know what you did. Stop before someone gets hurt. He deleted it at home. Dana found him sitting in the dark, staring at his phone screen. They're threatening you now. He nodded. Anonymous number. Probably a proxy. They want me scared. Are you? He thought for a long moment. No, but I'm tired. Dana knelt beside him. Then rest. For one night. Michael's gaze stayed distant. I can't. They're rewriting the report. By morning, the footage won't match the transcript. She frowned. What do you mean? They'll alter timestamps, redact dialogue. It's what institutions do. They don't erase lies, they format them. At midnight, he returned to his office. Security cameras caught him entering, but not what he beta, small digital recorder. He placed it under the table before the next morning's follow-up meeting with Halbrook and Reynolds. The discussion began like routine damage control. Halbrook's tone was smoother this time. We've reviewed the situation. The department will suspend Officer Henson pending internal review. In exchange, we ask that you make a public statement confirming your confidence in law enforcement. Michael's expression didn't change. A statement written by your press office, I assume. Halbrook nodded slightly. It's a small compromise for the greater good, Reynolds added. You're a national figure, director. If you stand with us, people will calm down. Michael tilted his head. And if I don't? Halbrook's eyes hardened. Then you'll lose allies you didn't know you had. The Bureau can't shield you from every storm. Michael studied their faces, practiced, measured. He thought of every black man pulled over for the crime of existing. Every mother told it's under investigation. Every file marked closed. He smiled faintly. Gentlemen, you just said more than you intended. He stood, leaving the recorder humming beneath the table. That night, in his basement study, Michael plugged in the recorder. The playback was clear. Halbrook's veiled threats, Reynolds' pressure, the mutual plan to contain fallout. Proof, not just of bias, but systemic corruption. He sent the file to Maya with a single message. Time for Act 2. Minutes later, she replied. This could blow the entire department. Michael typed, then let it. Morning brought chaos. The audio hit social media within hours, spreading faster than any prepared statement could stop it. Hashtags flipped overnight. Hashtag not one bad cop trended beside hashtag resign Halbrook. Protesters filled the city steps, chanting his name not as director, but as witness. Inside the bureau, Cole stormed into Michael's office. You're done. Do you understand what you've started? Michael looked up from his computer. Accountability. Cole slammed a folder on his desk. No, an internal investigation. Against you. Unauthorized recordings, media leaks, breach of confidentiality. Michael's eyes narrowed. So they investigate the messenger. Predictable. Cole's voice cracked with frustration. You're bringing down institutions that can't be rebuilt overnight. Maybe they shouldn't be rebuilt the same way. Cole stared at him for a long moment, then left without another word. That evening, Michael stood before his family. Dana sat beside their son, on the couch, eyes wide, the television glowing with his face on every channel. Reporters quoted his voice. Trust built on silence isn't trust. It's complicity, Dana whispered. You've lit a fire. Michael's gaze stayed fixed on the screen. Fires purifying, or they consume. We'll find out which. His son looked up confused. Dad, are you in trouble? Michael crouched beside him. Sometimes doing the right thing means being in trouble. The boy nodded slowly, eyes bright with something between pride and fear. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance, not chasing anyone, just echoing through the restless city. Michael turned off the lights. It's begun. The city woke up angry. By dawn, the streets pulsed with movement. Hundreds, then thousands, gathering beneath banners, reading "We see you. We believe you." Helicopters hovered overhead, the chant rolling upward through glass towers and sirens. In living rooms across America, Michael Grant's voice replayed on loop. Trust built on silence isn't trust, it's complicity. Inside his house, that same voice seemed to haunt the air. Dana stood at the kitchen counter, scrolling through her phone. "They've turned the audio into protest clips. You're trending in 20 states. Michael poured coffee with steady hands. "Good." She looked up sharply. "No, not good. There's a target on you now." He took a sip, gazed distant. There always was. At the precinct, Clay Henson slammed his locker shut. Reporters were stationed outside, cameras waiting for any flash of emotion. Chief Reynolds barked orders in the hallway, trying to control the chaos. "No one speaks to the press. Not a word without clearance." Clay muttered, "You should have backed me sooner." Reynolds stopped, turning slow. "You did this to yourself. I did my job. You disgraced your badge." Clay's eyes flared. "You were fine with me until the video dropped. Don't act righteous now." Reynolds' reply was low. "The union's pulling your legal fund. You're on your own." Clay's jaw locked. "That's a mistake." But the chief was already walking away. Clay stood there, surrounded by the smell of sweat and metal, the sound of everything slipping through his fingers. Across town, Michael sat in a glass-walled office at the bureau, now stripped of calm. Phones rang nonstop. Cole paced in circles. "Mike, the Attorney General wants answers. Congress is calling emergency hearings. They're treating you like a whistleblower." Michael stared out the window at the protesting crowd below. "Maybe that's what I am." Cole's voice rose. "You're not a journalist. You're a director. You're supposed to protect the Bureau's credibility." "I'm protecting its soul," Michael said. Cole stopped pacing. "Do you have any idea what you've unleashed? Henson's files are being subpoenaed. The department's collapsing under investigation. People will get hurt." Michael turned from the window, eyes cold. "People already did." Cole stared at him, then lowered his voice. "They'll come after your clearance next, then your pension, then your family." Michael didn't flinch. "Let them." That night, protesters filled the steps of the Capitol. Maya Torres stood near the front, camera crew beside her, narrating live. "The Grant audio has become more than a scandal, it's a reckoning. Documents released under whistleblower statutes confirm systemic suppression of racial misconduct reports across multiple jurisdictions." Michael watched her broadcast from home, Dana beside him. His son sat cross-legged on the floor, eyes glued to the screen. "Dad," the boy whispered, "they're cheering for you." Michael's face was unreadable. "They're cheering for what they finally see." Dana reached over, taking his hand. "They're also watching for you to fail. Be ready." He nodded, quiet. A knock at the door broke the moment. When he opened it, two men stood outside plain suits, no badges visible. One held an envelope. "Director Grant," the taller one said, "by order of the Office of Professional Responsibility, you're being placed on administrative leave pending review." Michael accepted the envelope without expression. "You're early." The man frowned. "Sir, I expected this tomorrow." He shut the door before they could reply. Dana's voice trembled. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm officially disposable." Meanwhile, Clay sat in a cheap motel room, his phone buzzing with hate messages from both sides: police loyalists calling him weak, activists calling him a monster. He turned on the TV. The footage from that night played again, his flashlight, his voice, Michael's stillness. He threw the remote. It cracked against the wall. The phone rang again, a known number. He answered. A smooth voice said, "You're toxic now, Officer Henson. They'll make you the fall guy. Best disappear quietly." "Who is this?" "Someone cleaning up your mess." The line went dead. Clay's hands shook. For the first time, fear replaced arrogance. At the bureau, internal emails leaked to the press records showing that complaints against Clay were forwarded up the chain, ignored by multiple supervisors. The rot was no longer hidden. Maya's new article named names. Congress demanded testimony. By evening, the city's police headquarters was surrounded by reporters. Chief Reynolds resigned. Live on camera. Dana turned off the TV. "It's happening faster than I thought." Michael sat on the couch, eyes shadowed. Truth moves slow until it doesn't. His phone buzzed again, a message from Maya. "They want you to testify." "Before Congress?" Dana asked. He nodded. "Next week." She squeezed his hand. "That's justice." He shook his head. "It's exposure. Justice comes later." Outside, the chants echoed through the night. His name, his words. fragments of a movement that no one could now contain. Dana whispered, "You did it." Michael looked out the window, toward the flood of lights and voices. "No," he said softly. "We just tore the mask off. The face was always there." He turned away from the window and sat down beside his son. "Tomorrow," he said, "we start teaching you what to do with the truth once you find it." The boy nodded. Small but solemn. In the distance, thunder rolled again, not a storm this time, but the sound of a city learning how to look at itself. The storm returned this time, man-made. By morning, anonymous reports flooded the news cycle, claims that Michael had overstepped authority, manipulated evidence, acted politically, none sourced, all amplified. The Bureau issued a terse statement: Director Michael Grant is under review for breach of protocol. Every outlet ran it. Dana stared at the screen. "They're turning it back on you." Michael folded the newspaper in silence. "That was always their play." She gripped the counter. "You knew they'd smear you." He nodded once. "Every institution defends itself before it reforms." At headquarters, Cole met him in the underground garage. The echo of their steps filled the concrete air. "You shouldn't be here," Cole said quietly. "They're scrubbing your clearance in real time." "I came for my files." "They're locked already. You're persona non grata." Michael stopped walking. "Then I want a copy of every internal memo regarding misconduct suppression from 2015 onward." Cole stared at him. "That's classified. It's corruption, not classification." Cole's voice dropped. "Mike, listen, you're being set up as the fall man. You go public again, they'll leak everything, your private calls, your family records. They'll make you radioactive." Michael's reply was a whisper. "Then I'll burn brighter." Cole swallowed hard. "They've already started." He handed Michael a printed document, an internal memo leaked to the media that morning. The headline: FBI Director fabricated racial allegations for political gain. Michael read it slowly, then exhaled. "They're scared." Cole's voice cracked. "They're dangerous." That afternoon, news vans lined the street outside Michael's home. Commentators debated his motives. Pundits dissected his tone, his past cases, his marriage, his race. Inside, Dana unplugged the television. "They're poisoning everything." Michael sat at the dining table, laptop open, pulling up archived reports. "Then we counter with facts. Against a machine built to erase them, truth doesn't need permission to exist." Dana leaned forward, voice trembling. "They'll destroy you, Michael." He looked up at her, eyes tired but clear. "They already tried. This time, I decide how it ends." Across town, Clay Henson met with a shadowed figure in a parked car, a political fixer with connections deep enough to erase charges. "You go on camera," the man said. "Say the director threatened you. Say he was unstable." Clay shook his head. "That's a lie." The man's smile was thin. "You want your pension? You want your gun rights back? Then it's the truth we pay for." Clay's jaw tightened. "He's the one who ruined me." "Exactly," the man said. "Now, it's your turn." Clay hesitated, then nodded once. "Tell me what to say." Hours later, the networks broadcast Clay's interview. He sat under harsh lighting, voice steady. "Director Grant pressured me to falsify a report. He wanted a racial confrontation to justify new oversight powers. When I refused, he turned on me." The interviewer leaned in. "You're saying the entire altercation was staged?" Clay nodded. "He provoked it. It was a setup." The clip spread instantly. Michael's phone lit up with notifications. Dana's face went pale. He flipped. Michael's expression didn't change. "He's being handled," she whispered, "then fight back." He looked at her then quietly said, "No, expose, not fight." That night, he released the internal bureau emails through a secure channel to the Senate Oversight Committee and to Maya Torres. The files showed that Clay's prior misconduct reports had been redacted before reaching federal reviews signed off by the same officials, now calling for Michael's removal. Within hours, the headlines reversed. "Whistleblower leak reveals deep cover-up." Cole called him near midnight. "You just detonated half the bureau," Michael replied. "It was already burning. I just turned on the lights." Cole sighed. "They're filing charges of data breach. You might not see daylight for a while." Michael's tone was calm. "You mean freedom." Outside, protesters gathered again, this time chanting not just for justice, but for Michael by name. Through the window, Dana watched the crowd holding candles in the rain. "They believe you again." He joined her, watching silently. "Belief is fragile." She turned to him. "And you?" He didn't answer. His phone buzzed again. Maya's text. You've started a chain reaction. The committee wants you to testify tomorrow morning. They're calling it emergency accountability hearings. He stared at the message. Tomorrow. Dana's voice was soft. You're walking into a storm. He nodded. Then let's make sure it remembers me. In the motel across town, Clay watched the same headline scroll across his television. His fixer's number no longer connected. The message thread had vanished. He opened his hotel drawer inside. His badge lay beside a half-empty whiskey bottle. He whispered to the empty room. They used me. No one answered. He turned off the light as dawn broke. Michael stood before his mirror in a dark suit, adjusting his tie with slow precision. His reflection looked older, harder. Dana appeared in the doorway. You ready? He nodded. No one ever is. She stepped closer, fixing his collar. They'll try to humiliate you. Stay calm. He met her eyes. Calm is their language. Truth is mine. Outside, the escort car waited, rain falling steady on black asphalt. Michael picked up his briefcase, exhaled once, and stepped into the storm. The Senate chamber was colder than Michael remembered. Marble. Lights too white, silence too sharp. Rows of cameras lined the back wall, their lenses pointed like rifles. He adjusted the microphone. The nameplate before him read Director Michael Grant, suspended. Senator Langford cleared his throat. Director Grant, you are here under oath. Do you understand the charges being considered? Michael's voice was steady. Yes, Senator. Breach of protocol, insubordination, and disclosure of classified information. Langford leaned forward. You leaked internal documents to the press. Do you deny this? I released evidence of systemic suppression within federal and local law enforcement, Michael said. Evidence the Bureau refused to act on. Langford's jaw flexed. You bypassed the chain of command. The chain was the problem. A low murmur spread across the chamber. Cameras zoomed in. Another senator, Ortega, interjected. Director, you're accusing multiple agencies of collusion without direct proof. Michael turned his gaze toward her. You've read the emails. You have the proof. What you lack is permission to call it corruption. The room went silent. From the gallery, Dana watched, knuckles white around her purse strap. Beside her, Maya Torres scribbled notes, whispering to a producer. He's not defending himself, she said. He's indicting the system, Dana whispered back. That's all he ever wanted. Langford lifted a folder. Officer Clay Henson has testified under oath that you orchestrated your own encounter to manipulate racial tensions for personal gain. How do you respond? Michael's face hardened. Officer Henson's testimony was purchased. Langford smirked. That's a serious accusation. I have evidence of his meeting with lobby intermediaries tied to police unions under investigation. Langford's hand froze. You're saying we're compromised. Michael met his eyes. I'm saying the entire ecosystem of power has learned to feed on silence. Langford leaned back slowly. And what are you, Director Grant? A martyr? Michael's voice dropped. A witness. Across every network, the hearing streamed live. Clips trended in real time. Hashtag Grant hearing. Hashtag Truth on Trial. Hashtag Expose the System. Protesters filled the plaza outside the Capitol, chanting through rain. Signs read, "The truth doesn't need clearance." Inside, Langford motioned to a staffer. Enter the following into record. Director Grant's unauthorized statements reflect personal grievance, not institutional policy. Michael interrupted. That's the language that keeps corruption breathing. Senator, neutral words for violent systems. Gasps rippled through the room. Langford slammed the gavel. You are out of order. Michael leaned closer to the mic. So was Justice. The gavel echoed 3 times. After recess, the lights dimmed slightly. Maya approached the witness area with clearance as a journalist, holding a tablet. Director, we've just received new data from your leak emails confirming Clay Henson's false testimony was coached by the same law firm managing the department's damage control. Michael nodded slowly. Publish it. Langford turned sharply. Ms. Torres, you are not authorized to address this hearing. But Maya was already uploading the files live to her feed. The headlines exploded within seconds. Dana covered her mouth, whispering. He did it. Langford barked. This hearing is adjourned. Michael rose from his seat. No, Senator, it's begun. Outside, the press surged. Director Grant, do you have proof of coordinated cover-up? Is the Bureau complicit in racial bias suppression? Do you fear prosecution? Michael stopped at the top of the Capitol steps, rain soaking his suit. He faced the sea of cameras. I fear silence, he said, because silence is where they win. He walked down the steps slowly as flashes strobed around him. Dana pushed through the crowd to reach him. You just detonated your career, she whispered. He smiled faintly. Careers rebuild. People don't. Meanwhile, across the city, Clay watched the live feed from a dark motel room. The screen showed the leaked emails, his name, his recorded statement, payment records. He collapsed into the chair, whispering, "They burned me." He opened his phone, scrolling to Michael's number. After a long pause, he called. Michael answered quietly. "Grant." Clay's voice cracked. "They used me. I know. What happens now?" Michael's tone was calm. "You tell the truth on record." Clay hesitated. "They'll kill my career." Michael's reply was cold. "Then let it die clean." The line went silent. Within hours, Clay walked into the district attorney's office, handing over his phone and private recordings. "I'm done lying," he said. Across the city, the fallout spread. The police union dissolved under criminal investigation. Chief Reynolds faced indictment for evidence tampering. Clay Henson's full confession, broadcast nationwide, became the viral headline of the year. In one clip, Clay stared into the camera, voice cracking. "I lied because I was told it would save me, but every lie made me smaller. Every order made me someone else. I see that now." The public watched in silence. Some called him brave for coming clean. Others called him too late. Maya Torres' documentary Silence Protocol premiered 3 weeks later. Part investigation, part confession, part requiem. Michael refused interviews but allowed his recorded testimony to air in full. In it, his voice carried calm, almost weary clarity. Institutions don't rot suddenly, they decayed one ignored truth at a time. Racism doesn't wear a hood anymore, it wears procedure. The film ignited a second wave of protests, quieter but more focused. Instead of chaos, there were petitions, reform bills, city hearings. The change was procedural, low, contested, real. Months later, Michael sat at a public library table, surrounded by students and community organizers. He wasn't speaking as director anymore, just as Michael. A young man raised his hand. "Sir, how did you know it was worth losing everything?" Michael thought for a moment. "Because silence costs more." The boy nodded slowly. "And what about the people who still won't listen?" Michael smiled faintly. "Then we talk louder." Dana watched from the back of the room. The pride on her face was quiet. Private, the kind built on survival, not victory. That night, they walked together through the National Mall. The reflecting pool shimmered under moonlight. In the distance, the Lincoln Memorial glowed faintly. "Marble against darkness." Dana said. "They still call you the whistleblower." "I know. Do you hate that?" "No. Whistles wake people up." They stopped by the edge of the pool. Michael looked at the reflection, his own face fractured by ripples. "I used to think exposure was the end goal," he said. "Now I know it's only the beginning." Dana slipped her arm through his. "Then, what comes next?" He exhaled, slow. "Accountability that doesn't need a camera to exist." They stood in silence. Wind moved across the water, carrying the faint echo of distant chants. Remnants of protests turned into memory. Meanwhile, Clay Henson lived under a new name in another state. No badge, no uniform, just a small apartment and a part-time job fixing cars. He didn't speak to reporters, didn't grant forgiveness interviews, but once a week, he mailed a letter and signed to a nonprofit for police reform, enclosing a small donation. Each envelope contained the same line: "Make sure this never happens again." Maya's voice closed her documentary. "Some stories don't end with redemption. They end with reflection. And sometimes that's enough to start something larger than one man's fall or another's rise." The screen cut to black. A year later, the Senate passed the Accountability and Oversight Act, on imperfect bill, watered down, but real. It required mandatory data audits, external review boards, and transparency logs for officer conduct. Michael watched the vote from his home, quiet, distant. Cole called him that night. "You watching the news?" "I am. They're calling it the Grant reform." He didn't answer for a moment. Then, softly, "No, it belongs to everyone who refused to look away." At dawn, he stood outside again, coffee in hand. The sky was bruised purple, the first light breaking through. Dana joined him, wrapping a shawl around her shoulders. "You ever think it was too much?" she asked. Michael looked out toward the rising sun. "No such thing as too much truth." She smiled faintly. "And if it comes for you again," he turned to her, "then it means I'm still worth silencing."